I hate critical race theory, period.
This is unacceptable. You don't brainwash kids like this.
We need to stop CRT, period, point blank.
I can't believe we're even talking about this right now.
Critical race theory?
Critical race theory says everything is racist.
If you ask 10 different people what is race, critical race theory, you get 10 different answers.
It is a ridiculously racist ideology that they're teaching these students and these kids.
It really is time to talk about pulling kids out of school.
That's why I choose to speak out against critical race theory, because it brings divisiveness.
We have a crisis.
And it's a falsehood.
CRT is not an honest dialogue. It is a tactic that was used by Hitler and the Ku Klux Klan on slavery very many years ago to dumb down my ancestors so we could not think for ourselves.
The theory has been hijacked from the walls of academia to be used as a weapon and a political tool to distract from things that we need to be talking about.
I want to be absolutely clear. This government stands unequivocally against critical race theory.
Yeah. Within critical race theory, there is already racism within it. It is, while they would deny it, of course, by judging people based on their skin color.
Oftentimes, critical race theorists, if they define racism, the definition would even say that it's white people racist towards people of color.
Thus, books like White Fragility, if I could talk,
right,
and all this other nonsense that comes out.
It's quite clear, you know, people on the left have managed to somehow conflate Black history with critical race theory.
When we think about critical race theory, what comes to mind? What comes to mind? When you say the word critical, what comes to your mind when you think about the word critical? I have 2 degrees in medicine. You know what critical means to us? Critical means that the person is almost getting ready to die, or they most surely will die.
Just personally fed up with a hypocritical ideology. I just want to put it plain and straight.
Whether they're in public, private, homeschools, colleges, and universities, I'm very concerned about the state of education in the United States of America.
It's teaching young people that we're not in control of our own destiny, young people of color to be specific, that we're not in control of our own destiny, and that is wrong.
Really harmful thing to teach children who otherwise would not be concerned at all about somebody's race, but it is getting, infiltrated into our schooling systems.
So we do know one thing that everybody knows is race-based, and if you teach it in school, it's racism.
When the left talks about equity, they're not talking about equal opportunity. They have rejected color blindness. They have canceled America. And we are fortunate now that parents are understanding the destructiveness of the critical race theory agenda that takes away from academic learning. They're becoming more confident about standing up and pushing back.
It is sad that we are even contemplating something like critical race theory, where children will be separated by their skin color and deemed permanently oppressors or oppressed in 2021.
CRT is racist. It is abusive. It discriminates against one's color.
Hegemony, oppressor, oppressed, marginalized groups. What do you mean marginalized groups? When you hear marginalized groups or the voice of the marginalized, think the people who are on the bottom of the hegemonic oppression. This terminology reeks of Gramscian Marxism and critical race theory.
I hate critical race theory because I hate racism. I can't take it anymore.
When you talk about critical race theory, which is pretty much going to be teaching kids how to hate each other, how to dislike each other, that's pretty much what it's going to, I don't care what you say, it's pretty much what it's going to all come down to. You're going to deliberately teach kids, this white kid right here got it better than you because he white? You're going to purposely tell a white kid, oh, the black people are all down and suppressed. How do I have 2 medical degrees if I'm sitting here oppressed?
That something sinister is taking place when it comes to education, when it comes to the curriculum, what our children are being exposed to, as well as the indoctrination when it comes to race.
I also believe that teaching our children to hate other people because of the color of their skin or to blame their situation on someone of another race is also wrong. It's a step backwards, not a step forward.
What I choose to believe, and what I believe is true, is that we are more than that. We are more than oppressed and oppressors.
Let me tell you this. The people who are teaching their kids to love this country and to be accountable for your actions, they are succeeding. You are succeeding. I'm succeeding. When you look at this stuff, if you teach your kids to be a victim their entire life, they will be the bums walking around.
Instead of a theory, I'd like to share the reality of a race whose history of success in America has been stolen, and what we can do to repay that damage. I grew up in the Deep South, Tallahassee, in the 50s and 60s, where we believed in commanding respect, not begging or asking for it.
2 medical degrees. No mom, no dad in the house. Worked my way through college. Sat there and hustled my butt off to get through college. You gonna tell me somebody that looked like all y'all white folks kept me from doing that? Are you serious?
So it is infiltrating our public schooling systems, especially at the lower level where, parents are sending their kids to these schools and we're being told things about affinity groups based on your race.
And one thing critical race theory for sure does is that it brings back racism like a little cycle.
By the way, this is what the 1619 Project is all about. 1619 Project says, no. America's established 1619. Why 1619? I'm glad you asked. Because according to the authors of this Pulitzer Prize-winning project, that is some of the most horrible historiography you will ever find anywhere. 1619 is when the first black slaves came to America. You see, if America is defined by the first time black slaves come to our soil, then America is defined by racism.
It's backwards to fight discrimination with different types of discrimination. And it's wrong to try to use our painful past to dishonestly shut down debates in the present.
Critical race theory is always focusing on the supposed racism of other people, but they reject their own racism.
Wow.
Which leads to major problems that our sins are not being addressed, which makes us all the worse. And then we are slandering other people, which is then hurting them. So then I am being moved further away from the truth, and then they are now being tempted to question themselves unjustifiably. It's a problem for me and for other people.
Let me educate you. An honest dialogue does not oppress. An honest dialogue does not implement hatred or injustice. It's to communicate without deceiving people. Today, we don't need your agreement. We want action and a backbone for what we asked for today, to ban CRT.
And this is awesome to see. This black woman denouncing critical race theory. That's what she means by CRT for short. Because,
how are we going to progress as a community if we're not focused on absolutely uplifting ourselves, but instead we're looking backwards and focus on the things that are supposedly holding us back and holding us down? I just disagree with that. I think that our community is going to be propelled by people who look at the circumstances that they find themselves in and say that these aren't going to hold me back. That's how we lead our people forward. That's how we set our people free.
Nobody want to get to the heart of the matter, get to the meat of the matter, get to the moral of the story. When it all comes down to it, the person that's going to be suffering from this, the ones going to be hurt from this, is the kids.
When we tell people that they can't do something, they won't even try. So if you're telling young black children that they are anybody outside of that white male oppressor class or race, that they can't do anything, we are setting our future up, and our children, who are our most precious resources, you're setting them up for failure.
When I think about critical race theory, the thing that aggravates me as a black man in America is this assumption of victimology.
Right.
Is that I am just incapable of being successful. I am incapable of achieving. I am incapable because of some genetic defect.
However, what we are against is the teaching of contested political ideas as if they are accepted facts. We don't do this with communism, we don't do this with socialism, we don't do it with capitalism. And I want to speak about a dangerous trend in race relations that has come far too close to home to my life. And it is the promotion of critical race theory, an ideology that sees my blackness as victimhood and their whiteness as oppression.
It's hatred, Marxist ideology, and it places the child in a loophole of oppression, making them feel as a victim. I can't stand for that.
When we choose to put ourselves into social categories, we end up greatly risking our ability to come together in unity.
Kids are being informed, they're being polluted with these perspectives that are not true because they want these kids to come out of school and they want them to be warriors for the government, because that's what these kids are doing. They know when they're rioting and looting, and Maxine Waters is saying they want them to be soldiers for the government, and it is dangerous ideology.
Today, you look at the words of Martin Luther King Jr. Judge not someone by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. Critical race theory is absolutely opposed to that logic, opposed to that teaching, and that's why we're against it. It's not because we're trying to take Black history out of our schools. We're trying to take racism out of our schools, which is unfortunately what critical race theory has morphed itself into.
Not one white person ever came to me and say, well, son, you're never going to be able to get nowhere because you know the black people. But guess what? What's sickening about this whole thing is what y'all doing right now is already something I do in my community right now to speak out against stuff, because black folks are getting told by other black folks, oh, you know you ain't going to be able to do nothing out there in the world because them white folks ain't going to let you get no, oh, you know you're not going to be able to do it here because you know, the white man going to keep you down. Well, how did I get where I am right now if some white man kept me down? How am I now directing over folks that look just like you guys in this room right now? How?
Really, this whole race thing started when an individual decided that based on the physical trait of skin color, certain groups of people are better than other groups of people. But now we're taking that and we're saying, let's keep those distinctions sacred and uphold them and emphasize them, and in fact, give these physical traits irreversible, irremovable qualities that you must adhere to like some sort of religion, and you must dance around all these things if you see someone of a certain skin color, and there is nothing that can do away with those differences.
And what has happened is a situation that is not conducive to learning. What has taken place is more like indoctrination.
That is not how we become the independent Black people.
This is a complete lie. And the reason why they say it's systemic is because they never plan to fix it. They want it to be the boogeyman that they never fix.
Martin Luther King said he wanted his kids to grow up in a world where they are judged by the contents of their what? Their character, not their skin. If they letting this stuff go on right now, it is absolutely doing the complete reverse of what he's doing. So when February comes, don't talk about Martin Luther King. When February comes, don't talk about Black History Month. Y'all gonna sit there and just pretty much pee on his grave with this nonsense? That's exactly what's about to happen.
I'll tell you right now, if MLK was alive today, he would be canceled by the left. I mean, am I the only one surprised that he hasn't gotten canceled by the blue check marks on Twitter, by the Democrats, by the radical left? Because everything that he believed in had nothing to do with what they're practicing today.
There's no place for critical race theory.
Telling my child or any child that they are in a permanent oppressed status in America because they are Black is racist.
But even so, it creates victims on both sides. So even white people who buy into it, they're a victim, right? Because, man, you're unconsciously racist, right? So they say, if you say you're not racist, they would say, as a white person, they would say, you are, you just don't know it yet.
You're just not aware of
And
it.
so you have to basically acknowledge the fact that you're a racist.
You cannot further brotherhood of a man by encouraging class hatred.
The 1619 Project is about the first premise of critical race theory.
And it's racism and it's race-based. What else can you say? It just should not be taught.
Yeah. Daddy teaches you can be anything in this world that you want to be, right? Don't Daddy teach you that?
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if you're Black or white or any color.
Doesn't matter if you're Black, white, brown, yellow.
You know, I think this entire obsession with racism that people on the left have is the most counterproductive thing that's ever inflicted the Black community.
Some people are like, you know, you're just like not in touch with the fact that you're Black, and you know that's not true. I love being Black. Let me just go ahead and put that out there right now. There is nothing better in my world than the melanin that I get to wear every day.
And I am not being funny. When you study World War II and you study exactly what Hitler Youth was and what they were trying to do to make sure that the children that were being produced in the school systems and in Germany were coming out with these perspectives that would only help the government grow, that is what is taking place in America right now.
The thing is that the intent behind these teachings in school is to indoctrinate kids as early as possible. They don't want to let there be any chance that they would possibly grow up thinking that we live in a fairly equal society. They don't want to believe that whatsoever. They want it to be embedded in them that the United States is a racist country.
40 years later, we're now electing a president of the United States as a Black man, vice president of the United States, a Black woman. And we say there's no progress. Only those who say there's no progress, those who do not want progress.
Civil rights laws bans discrimination against anyone on account of their race, including white people. And we need to keep resisting critical race theory by pointing out that it is un-American. It runs counter to civil rights laws and the Equal Protection Clause. It involves bullying and shaming people because of the color of their skin. That's not something we should be doing in America.
The essence of critical race theory is breaking people into groups, and instead of using class, because we're Americans, they use race. And anybody that is put into an automatic and permanent state of oppressor or oppressed is an insult to everyone.
It's really this idea that based on your race, particularly in America, the United States of America is racist.
So it's an assumption.
It's an assumption.
That everybody's racist.
That it's
or
racist.
Is it just white people racist?
Well, white people.
We do not want to see teachers teaching their white pupils about white privilege and inherited racial guilt. And let me be clear, any school which teaches these elements of critical race theory as fact, or which promotes partisan political views such as defunding the police without offering a balanced treatment of opposing views, is breaking the law.
And you want to bring in all these factors of history. And when are we going to break the cycle where we actually uphold the teachings of Martin Luther King Jr., for example, that we're not judging people based on the color of their skin, but the content of their character? Like, when are we going to get to that point?
So when you say critical race theory, you might think of it in the sense of, oh, this information is critical that they know, as of the upper is important. But when I think about critical race theory, I think about critical as in this is getting ready to kill something or kill somebody.
Young black kids do not need to be told that because of the color of their skin, they won't be able to overcome the circumstances they find themselves in. That's not going to uplift our community. That's not going to push our people forward. All it's going to do is just, again, push us further towards victimization and not towards anywhere towards empowerment.
The fact is that the elitist, the far left Democrats, those people, sure, yeah, they support critical race theory. But the people, the parents, the normal people with common sense, they don't support this.
And how we treat people is based on who they are and not what color they are.
And if they're nice and smart.
See, this is how children think right here. Critical race theory wants to end that. Not with my children. It's not gonna happen.
I laugh at terms like anti-racism because it really all is just about remagnifying the concept of race.
It being race-based, and you're teaching about it, but you're teaching in a way that you're teaching racism. It does not make any sense. I'm totally against it.
That is not teaching the truth, unless you believe that whites are better than blacks.
And this whole idea of this white privilege and all this other
white
garbage.
privilege, and then this idea of whiteness as property, in the sense of whiteness is something that you possess, and like people of color don't have access to it. It's a really,
I'll tell you right now, the people I know, forget about the whiteness as property. They want to have the greenness as property.
We have a community now that lives the American dream. Look around this room and see the middle class that we have developed and more. And yet we tell those who are striving to get where we are that they can't because white people won't let them.
That's why I look at all these athletes right here, right? Around these $1 million contracts,
Right.
multi-million-dollar contracts in tennis shoes and commercials, and which soft drink they drink, and how they work out, and which after recovery drink they drink. All this garbage out there they're talking about, and that translates into power. And that's the one thing we think about. Critical race theory denies the existence of what's really happening.
So as a result of these ideologies, we have all been taught over time, through our media, through our educational systems, to view ourselves not as part of a whole, but as part of subgroups. As part of subgroups who in some way, shape, fashion, or form are being oppressed by the hegemonic power that rules and governs our culture.
It says that in order to remove race, we must elevate and emphasize race even more.
So, most likely, what is going to happen when this gets taught to our children?
And if you teach this stuff to 5-year-olds, what you're really doing is basically causing them to be set up from a very early age, feeling like they are born racist, that they are born with this privilege that is innate, that there's nothing they can do to get rid of it. And then when they get older, how do you think they're going to vote? If they still believe it, how do you think they're going to vote? because it's instilled in them from a very early age. That's why you can't allow this stuff to happen. You really can't.
It's been taught different ways in different schools, and it's been abused. And the problem is you taking young people who next to another young person and pitting one against the other.
That to me is treacherous, it's traitors. For to tell others who want the American dream that they can't achieve it because other people with a white skin won't let them do that.
And there's a lot of states out here battling to get this removed from the curriculum. And it is a tough battle to fight. So what they're doing with these children is essentially teaching little kids to look at each other by their skin color and view each other differently based on that. And we have to fight against that.
Because critical race theory would say that, no, as a person of color, you're oppressed. You don't have access to these things.
If critical race theory was legitimate, Barack Obama never would have happened.
You know, I oppose the teaching of black victimization, period. I think that the color of our skin should not dictate our future. It doesn't determine our future. I think that black people deserve a lot more credit than that.
It's because they'll say like, oh, it's just teaching racial sensitivity, or it's just teaching slavery history or Jim Crow. That's not what it is. It is dividing people up in different, by their race, and telling them what their permanent status is.
It's our job as parents to raise our children, not the school board.
Young people are being told that if they're white, they are oppressors, they're responsible for all the evils of their ancestors. If they are people of color, they're being told that they're victims.
People describe critical race theory as progressive, but it's anything but. As we seek to relitigate the past, all we're doing is rehashing old wounds, and they aren't affecting, the future of these young people.
My baby's gonna know that no matter what she wants to be in life, all she has to do is work hard, and she can become that.
Work hard, even though you don't know anyone. You can make friends.
Yeah, you can make friends, no matter what color they are. So
if you want to repay the Black American community, give us back our history. It was Karl Marx who said, the first battleground is rewriting of history. And that's exactly what's been happening. You take away our history, you take away pride in our past, appreciation for our present, and a vision for our future. And that's what you're seeing in Chicago, Baltimore, Ferguson. Every place Democrats oversee a black community is misery. And we're gonna blame white people? How about an ideology? How about we take ownership? Educate our young people again. Give them jobs, opportunities again. Tell them that the way to get in this country is through free market. Allow them to take away the regulations, allow them to run their own businesses. Don't burn down their businesses every year.
And if you look at MLK's family members that are alive today, like a vast majority of them are very, very, very conservative and have nothing to do with all this nonsense going on with BLM and critical race theory today.
This is the whole the oxymoronic position of these people who want to embrace critical race theory.
We're talking about the body of work. The body of work that teaches that black people are disadvantaged because of the color of their skin. The body of work that teaches that all white people, as you said, are apparently unconscious racists. The body of work that tells young black folks in this state, in this country, that we are nothing more than our circumstances. That is not how we propel our people. That is not how we push forward. That is not how we become the independent black people, black community that I know you want us to be, Mark, deep down. That's not how we move our people forward.
You look at the politicians, okay, especially Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, they're speaking right into that same mentality.
By thinking that people's skin colors is the most important thing about them. That in of itself is racism.
What kept me down? What oppressed me? I worked for myself from off the streets to where I am right now. You gonna sit here and tell me this lie of critical race theory? Of this the reason why black folks can't get ahead because of white folks? Are you kidding me? This is what we come to.
We are not a hapless, hopeless race. We're just like everybody else. Give us a break and we'll make it happen. Stand back and you see how great our nation, our community truly is.
And they're talking about, on one hand, how people of color don't have any position, don't have a voice, don't have a power, they're oppressed, they're put down, they're trapped by this system and that system, and nothing can happen. It's like, you're on one hand, you're saying that you're too dumb, you're too stupid to understand how business works, to understand how to get a loan, how to do a business, how to work a business, how to get a business loan, how to get I mean, it's like you're so stupid. You need some mighty white savior to come and help you out.
We focus a lot on the impact on Black kids of being told that you're a victim and the society is stacked against you and that everything is racist. And I've spoken a lot about the crippling effect, but it also affects white kids too when it comes to guilt and shaming, because many of them that become social justice warriors, they feel ashamed that they were born with white skin. And I think it's just so inappropriate for us to shame anyone's child.
And the same way I would speak out against that happening to a child of color or an adult of color is the same way I'm going to speak out against it happening to someone who's white, because they are my brothers and sisters. That's the fact of the matter. That's the bottom line, is that how we treat humans is what needs to be defended, not how we treat Blacks and how we treat whites. How do we treat humanity?
And it makes my brain boil when I think about people who accept this.
But if you want to implement this into the school system, I guarantee you to the day that I die, I'm going to be the very person right there debunking stuff, tearing stuff down, letting them know they can do exactly what I did and get exactly where I am by putting themselves to work and getting there. And ain't not one white person ever going to keep any of them from getting there. So the CRT stuff, BS.
Need to stop CRT. Period. Point blank.
We are coming together and we are strong.
Children do not see skin color, man. They love everybody. If they're good people, they love them.
We pray for people that are hurt.
10 years from now, if this stuff goes on, whose fault is it going to be? Whose fault is it going to be? Who we going to look back on and blame for this? Because this is stuff we're talking about right now. This stuff is going on right now. I do this stuff on a daily basis. I'm in the hood. I'm in the communities. I'm out there with folks in their face. I've been doing this stuff since I was 18 years old, talking to Black folks. And you know what? None of them are buying this nonsense. None of them are.
I have a dream. My 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I